Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel, and the um, Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel is here to bring you reviews and interviews from the various stars in wrestling and the various television shows over the years. We do that as often as we can, and we've got over 1,800 of these available. This is the um, edition for 1981, the All Star Wrestling Review for uh, February 28th of that year. And we continue to foray into being, hopefully, the best in the area as far as bringing you diversity in pro wrestling. Um, Hope to have the largest on YouTube or anywhere, actually, eventually television review. The idea behind these is so you know what's on the show, know what's worth watching, know what's worth skipping, unless you're a really big fan of a certain talent that I may not be, or the vast majority may not be. Anyway, as we move into the 28th of um, February, it's an interesting time in the WWF, mainly because Hulk Hogan will be leaving, I think, by the summer of 80. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's 82. But he's, been featured pretty heavily. And moving forward in his general direction would have been an interesting run. What if Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania had started in 82 instead of 84 in the WWF, or 83? But anyway, would Hulkamania even exist if not for going to Verne Gagne for a couple of years? Who knows? Anyway, so we kind of move forward there. This is the, as mentioned, February 28th edition of All Star Wrestling, which um, is hosted by Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, including Rick McGraw, attempting the Sergeant Slaughter Cobra Clutch Challenge from the 228 to 81 Championship Wrestling, and also including McMahon conducting ringside interviews with Don Morocco and the Grand Wizard. Morocco knew the territory, and I did not realize that he was a force this far back. Of course, my fandom began in 89, so my knowledge of history pretty well goes back to 84, 85. I know the champions and the lineage of championships for the late 70s, early 80s, but didn't know exact details of time. So Morocco coming in at the time was surprising when I was doing the review for this. Anyway, Gomer, as in Gomer Pyle, being chanted at Sergeant Slaughter as he's getting ready for the um, Cobra Clutch Challenge. And of course, Slaughter not exactly anything but unhappy with his attempting to put on the hold and not being treated with the level of respect that he believes he ought to have. He eventually does lock on the hold, and basically it's a sell job of a camel clutch hold or cobra clutch hold for basically a standing sleeper for several minutes. That whole segment runs about 9 minutes in total, give or take. Challenge also on the way back to the locker room made to Pat Patterson at the announce desk once again, announce table maybe. Anyway, Black Demon versus Pedro Morales. And of course, Pedro is still your Intercontinental Champion at the time. Pedro sidesteps his adversary here and almost dares the Demon to come back at him. Runs a very basic match, takedowns, and the Black Demon still wearing the multicolored boots, these time pink instead of purple. And the demon has a purple mask on, so maybe he's should be called the purple demon, but still the same tights as black demon. Anyway, hard punches and basic strikes by good old Mr. Morales, of course, your former WWF champion at the time, holding the belt for a few years here, and kind of, getting things over and arm drags, arm bars, and the like, cinches up on the arm, eventually gets the victory. Uh, as he often does, and of course, as Intercontinental Champion, that is there. You're going to expect him to get victories. Boston Crab is what brings him the victory. The Grand Wizard is here. Grand Wizard is presenting Magnificent Morocco. Morocco becomes a major force in the WWF over the next couple of years. He's there for about a 2-year run, maybe 2.5, something like that. Actually, longer than that, as he leaves in 88. I think he takes a little bit of time off in between there, but he has a good run in the New York territory. This 81 to leaving in 88. I think he retires officially in the early 90s, but choosing Hawaii over that lifestyle, that New York lifestyle. But anyway, Morocco basically says he's the best in the world, should be regarded, should be respected. Everyone needs to shut up and acknowledge the guy. He's not exactly a guy that you want to take a backward step to. McMahon makes a sideways comment about how humble he is, and that's certainly not the case. And he's less bloated than he ends up being in 85 to 87, 88. Certainly much more lean but muscular Don Morocco at the time. Morocco, of course, going into the ring and eventually having a pretty basic match to kick himself off here. And of course, you know, Don Morocco with the Grand Wizard defeating Angelo Gomez with submission. Adriatic Spike 341. The interview actually goes longer than the match, which, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, Morocco probably better on the microphone than on the nature of, you know, in-ring actual action there at the time, unless he had a opponent that could go with him, like a Jimmy Snuka at the time or Ricky Steamboat, something like that. But for the most part, it's kind of there. Anyway, so tie-ups, both guys, chin locks and basic stuff. Nothing necessarily worth writing home about. Morocco does a good bit of selling, also wearing purple tights, which for the time for a heel is an instant heat getter. Obviously wouldn't be a big deal these days, but was back then. And again, we have continuation of the desire to keep going, choking up on a guy, and then we see the Hangman coming in with Johnny Ross. Hangman probably pushed a little bit if he's teaming up with Ross. Of course, tag team title or tag team champions are in the ring, Martel and Garea. Ross coming in and hooking up on his opponent. Hangman lacking Fred Blassie again, so Hangman a little less important, but Garea gets in the side headlock and stays there for quite a bit. The match kind of goes round and round, and there you go. And really basic things from a simplistic perspective. There is certainly a nature to Garea finally managing to hit a couple drop kicks under the chin, which is weird to see him have the fire. Usually Martel and the team is having the fire, but Garea does fire up a little bit. But it's interesting that Martel, in terms of fire, does overshadow his opponent. Stands and brawls with the Hangman a little bit, doesn't get him very far, as that is not a brawl worth making, taking, and all of that. You know, we kind of go roundabout there, and you know, getting things going in a more directed fashion. Hard shots along the way, and Garea cut off on the Hangman a little bit. Match or on Rods, tries to take the man down a little bit. Rods is able to stand with him. Match goes longer than it really needs to, as the match almost feels like it's dragging at points here, but they do get a good bit, and then we see a bit of figure four and other attempted submission work there. I mean, it's fine, but at the same time, then we see Freddie Blassie out with Stan Hansen finally. I say finally because Blassie's been gone for a little bit. A 3-minute or 3.5-minute match here. Hansen punch, kick, elbows, and eventually the lariat gets him the victory. Stan Hansen really doesn't have a clear direction as far as major opponents, but still is featured on a almost weekly basis here. We'll be back with more right after this.